fitness business nerds. What's up? Welcome to another episode of the Business for Unicorns podcast. And today I'm super excited because I'm making a new friend today. I'm here with my special guest, Sara Kooperman. Welcome, Sara.
Well, it's great to be here. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, I'm so excited. You've met Mark Fisher out on the road speaking, but we've never met before. And this is my favorite kind of podcast to do because I'm just genuinely curious about you and your life and your work. So thank you so much for taking time to do this.
Well, I'm excited to be here. I love this type of stuff. I've been living on Zoom, unfortunately, or
Yes.
fortunately, for the past 2.5 years. So it's
Yes.
kind of fun.
Yeah, 100%. Well, for those of you who don't know Sarah, I'm going to give you Sarah a chance to talk about herself in a second. But Sarah is a human who does a lot of things. Sarah wears a lot of hats. I could spend this whole podcast talking about all of your amazing awards and achievements. But for you listeners, what you need to know is Sarah is a successful business owner, advisor. She's a keynote speaker, so you'll likely see her out on the road if you haven't already. She's a published author, podcast presenter, and most recently, I think you won an award in 2022. It's the Idea Fitness Leader of the Year award. Is that right? Or no, was you
Actually, I was
you were nominated
nominated
for that one,
for
but then you
that.
won another one, which is the
Yeah.
most innovating fitness pro by Fitness Industry Technology Council. So congrats on the nomination. Congrats on winning. It must feel good to be celebrated sometimes, right?
Well, it's really interesting because a lot of and I know we were going to talk about women, but a lot of women are not seen as prominently, I would say,
Hmm.
in the technology sphere.
Yeah.
And SCW Fitness, Water in Motion, Seat Fitness, we pride ourselves and making sure that everything we do is very accessible. And that just means you got to get familiar with technology, no matter what your age, no matter what your sex, your sexual preference, blah, 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 whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Well, it's just so great to see that, that you've had a long career in this industry and you're still challenging yourself and pushing boundaries and, and now giving back so much to others. I mean, so much of your work you do these days seems to be about education. So for our listeners, can you just talk a little bit about some of the projects you have going on right now where they can find you and learn more about your work?
Well, the our favorite thing that we've been doing, obviously for 35, oh my God, I think it's almost 40 years now, we've been doing the live conventions. So we do
Mm,
7 live conventions around the country. We used to get like 700 to 1,400 people, and now we're getting about, I'm going to say, 400 to 1,000 people as we kind of evolve out of this horrible pandemic. And we do them in Washington, D.C., San Francisco. We're in Orlando, Atlanta, Chicago. We're in Boston. There are 7 conventions around the country, and we have a health and fitness business summit. That's one specific room that's dedicated solely to live training and workshops. We have 16 workshops, 6 on Friday, 6 on Saturday, and 4 on Sunday that are all dedicated to business. So we've been focusing on that. And then we have kept 4 of our online conventions that are completely operated by Zoom that offer between 24 and 48 sessions, 4 sessions every hour on the hour for one day or 2 day. And we do a active aging convention, an aqua convention, a nutrition convention, and we're doing a personal training conference. That one's in December. So, and that addresses sales and service and things like that as well. It's really interesting. It's because we had to learn about technology so quickly through the pandemic. We migrated all our conventions online, and we had to build our own convention site to do it. And figure out how to navigate the frontline workers, which are the group exercise instructors and the personal trainers, and keep the business owners, in touch with these folks, because
hmm
we can't find enough group fitness instructors anymore to work for us as owners and managers because they've either dropped out of the industry or they went on their own.
Yeah.
and are doing virtual classes. And the worst people, or maybe the best people, I don't know, the personal trainers, it's personal.
Sure.
So they're not affiliated with our clubs or our boutique studios. So it's very difficult to find these individuals. That's what we're finding.
Yeah.
And a lot of you out there are sole owners now. And you're discovering what you need to know about business to leverage and grow your own company.
Yeah, well said, Sarah. Yeah, and I'll just echo that I'm seeing a lot of that myself through all of our. We have a group called the Unicorn Society that we work with, and all of those folks are having trouble hiring right now in this kind of quote post-pandemic world. So we're going to talk more about that for sure. For people who want to learn more about all those virtual and live conferences, where can they go find out more information?
They can find out at SCW, like Sarah City Workout,
Mhm.
scwfit.com, F-I-T. So
Perfect.
scwfit.com.
Yeah, I love it. I know we have a lot of people who, you heard my intro. I call our listeners the fitness business nerds because they love learning and they love being part of conferences like that. So, friends, if you haven't been to any of those, please go check them out, virtual and in person. But I want to dive into a few of those topics you mentioned that you cover at the conference. And the first topic I want to dive into, Sarah, is marketing. And I think one of the things that's a misconception about marketing for gyms is that it has to cost a lot of money. And it's one of the barriers to people who are just starting out, either as personal trainers or studio owners for the first few years, even ones who've been around for a long time. They have this misconception that to do really great marketing, you have to spend $10,000 a month on Facebook ads. And I know one of the things that you talk about a lot and are passionate about is inexpensive marketing strategies, ways to grow and market yourself that don't cost an arm and a leg. So I'd love to hear a little bit about some of your best practices and tips and what you see that's working right now.
Yeah, that's really hard. I gotta tell you, there's a company out there that spends $100,000 a week on Google,
Yeah.
trying to push themselves up on the Google search engine. And the other thing is, there's a lot of people that are boosting a lot of emails and boosting a lot of their posts on social media. We have relied a lot, especially over the pandemic, on Google, on social media to grow our businesses. And I think what we really need to also realize is it's still word of mouth. Now,
Hmm.
it may not come out of your mouth, it may be coming out of your social media connections or you forwarding an email to somebody else. But it's still word of mouth and it's still just about providing a great service. But I think one thing we forget to do is we forget to ask our current clients to recommend us to their friends. And we need to remember to ask them to do that. And when you post something, if you put something up online, ask people to please share this. And that helps a lot. And one of the things that I feel like I chant over and over again, you've got to do this bait, click, and retain, or bait, click, and keep. And what that means is you've got to post something that's interesting. I mean, even this type of podcast, reposting it, but the only way people can hear about it is that they click onto a link and they have to give you their contact information. So they have to give you their email, but I would also require a cell phone number because so many people they open, 90% of people open their cell phones if they get a message that's sent to them. And that's very important to do is you've got to retain it because algorithms, they change like Michael, they
Like
change
the
like
wind, like the
every
wind.
five
Yeah.
minutes. I feel
Uh-huh.
like, what the heck? Where do I find that now? And so it's that bait and click. So if you can find an interesting article, all you have to do is say, hey, Sarah, can we republish this? SCW, we have a great newsletter. You guys at Unicorn, you have great podcasts. SCW also, we do webinars. If you ever want to repost one of our articles, block, paste it, give us a little credit, show the website at the bottom, we always say yes.
Mm-hmm.
And we use that when we're doing our newsletters. But you've gotta figure out a way to do that. Jotform, Jotform, jotform.com, very inexpensive, great way to capture people and retain their email address, retain their cell phone number, put it in your own CRM, your own customer management, system that you have, but collect their information and keep their information. And that's something you need to do. So you can do it through an article. You could do it through, just a little bit of a video that you do on, here's a great way to tone your abs. Now, we all know we can't spot reduce, but blah, blah, blah. People still think a plank is going to change their life, right? So anything you can do, and it doesn't have to be sophisticated. It doesn't have to be, this professional video. And most of the videos I'd recommend you do is do them vertically now. Don't do them horizontally, because people are opening stuff on their phone. And if you're going to do a video, always make sure that you have the subtitles on. Subtitles, what is that called? Like
Captions, yeah, or the
thank you.
yeah, that was
Yeah, because
closed
people are
captions, yeah.
opening, they're opening it up in bed, they're opening it up on the train or on the bus. God, I hope they're not opening while they're driving. But they're opening it up when they don't want the volume on. So if you can make sure, if you're going to post something on Instagram, you're going to post it on Facebook, you're going to post it on LinkedIn, Pinterest, Twitter, wherever you're posting, make sure you have the subtitles on and that it's not covering up your name or something important. And keep it short. Keep it 15 seconds, maybe 30 seconds. I really wouldn't go much over, but you gotta, bait, click, and keep their email address and their cell phones. You know that 90% of people will open their text messages, and we're back down to about almost 11% will really open and read. They may open it, but that they'll really read your emails. And another thing is, I'm sorry, Michael, I'm kind of
No,
inspired,
it's great. Keep on
leaning,
going, please.
like
Yeah.
leaning into the camera here. But I read a great article by a gentleman from the New York Times, and I'm so embarrassed I can't remember his name. But I love the New York Times, I love the Wall Street Journal, and I'm always like, the McKinsey reports. I live and die by those. And there was a wonderful article on newsletters are coming back. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean like, just kind of vomiting out a newsletter is going to automatically work, but your followers want to see what you're saying. So if you're going to do things via email, do a newsletter, keep it short and sweet and Twitter-esque. And what I mean by that is, what you want to make sure is if you keep it Twitter-esque, like have an image and just like the first sentence, maybe the second sentence of the article, really saying what it is. And keep the title of the article really saying what it is. Learn the best way to train your abs. Focus on lower body strength. Increase your sex appeal through sexy arms, something like that. It's very important to do that. People also love nutrition articles. So we always end our newsletter with a nutrition article. And it just could be a recipe on something that's gluten-free or dairy-free or low in fat, high in protein, whatever really seems to attract people. So I always have one article that deals with the body part. I always end with an article that provides them a very simple recipe. And that helps to keep people engaged. And then I always ask people, share this to your friends.
Yeah.
And I will simultaneously send an email about my newsletter coming out and simultaneously send a text message. Now, I realize I'm kind of rambling here, but marketing is my thing. Like, I'm the
Yeah.
CEO of this company for 40 years. We've got this huge database of about 70,000. We have 55,000. At one point, we had 64,000 cell phone numbers. We cleaned it up and got rid of the ones where people type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. When they do that.
Yes.
And I think we pared it down to about 56,000. But people will give you their cell phone numbers. They will give you their emails. And if you're going to send an email, simultaneously send a text message and use a service for your text messages. There's there's one service called easytexting.com. The letter E, the letter Z, texing.com. Check into that. It's not my favorite. We're using it now, but it's not perfect, but then nothing's perfect in technology. And there's another one called Avocado, like avocado, but
Mm-hmm.
like you got the word chat in there. It's kind of
Yep.
silly.
Yep.
Avocado. And that's another automatic testing service. And I love that.
I'll throw another one in the mix. There's a one that's very popular with some of our clients called Text Magic, which is also a really, really popular one. Yeah, I mean,
Text
this
magic.
is all fantastic, Sarah. Let me just see if I can do a little recap for our listeners of all these great marketing tips. For starters, I love that you started with that marketing is just word of mouth. Right? No matter what technology you're using, what platforms, what strategies, still you have to be good at helping getting people to spread the word about you from one mouth to another. And sometimes that's on social media, sometimes that's email, but sometimes it's face to face. So I think that's so smart. And then the I think the big takeaway for our listeners from what you shared, though there are many, was this three-step framework, right? This kind of bait, click, and keep. And I love how specific you got, right? That you have to have something on social media, something on the internet that's actually, a thumb stopper, right? Something that's actually going to be a piece of bait that they want to take, something they find interesting. You don't have to make the content yourself. As you said, you can repost with permission from other people. So I think that's fantastic. I love that you emphasize collecting both emails and phone numbers and gave the great statistic that 90% of people open their cell phones. I'll add another statistics with that, which is that people see a new text message within 15 seconds. So not
Yes.
only opening it, but they're seeing it right away. So even if they don't open it, they're still noticing that you're in touch with them, which I think is so smart. I love that
And
you
it's,
also, yeah.
oh, no, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I also love that you mentioned the idea of newsletters, right? The idea that your people, if you collected my email, right, tell me what you're up to, right? Keep in touch with me. And so regular, ongoing kind of email content is so valuable. And some people have done away with it, thinking that it's not as valuable anymore. But it is. People, if you're putting out great content that solves problems for people and connects them to you and your community, they want to hear from you. And your tips to make it very short, Twitter-like, I thought was really brilliant. So many great tips. What were you going to add?
I was going to add also, when I do a text, I do an image that has interesting content in it.
Mm,
And I have the text content in it with a short link so someone can click on and go to the next thing. But also, they can share the image with a friend and
great,
post it automatically online. So I
great.
like that, the MMS, so that they can see an image, but they also get the content and a link. And one of the most important things now, people like this is even faster, is chatbots.
Hmm.
We use Tidio, Tidio. What do you guys use? I think it's a different service. I'm not quite sure, but
Yeah, we have a different one. We actually use a kind of a live one instead of a bot right now. But there are plenty of bot ones that are
and
fantastic.
and the bot ones, what I found was it's automatic. It
Hmm.
automatically, if I've got people on it from 9 to 5, I've got somebody automatically answering it. And I ask them their email, I ask them their cell phone, I get their name. And then I have integrated that into our, bait, click, and
Hmm.
keep. Integrate it into our CRM. Those are inexpensive. The Tidios are inexpensive. I'll be honest with you, the hardest thing I found was finding someone who could be on it like full
Sure.
time.
Sure.
I mean, that was the difficulty. So, what we do is we publicize that we're on at 9 to 5, and then it automatically goes to an email at help@secwfit.com,
Sure.
and we make sure that we answer those help emails.
Yeah.
Um, and people love that. They want an answer like
Right
right
away.
now. They'll get angry if they don't get it. But
We're so
but
used
it
to it, right? This instant gratification culture, right? Is that
no.
if I feel the impulse now to join a gym or ask a question or come back to the gym and no one responds to help me make that happen, the impulse is sometimes fleeting, right? Sometimes an hour later, I'm not interested in joining the gym anymore. And so for us to
And
be available, right, I think it makes or breaks a sale sometimes.
if you're going to do technology,
Hmm.
if you're going to do those emails, those cell phone, the texting, if you're going to do a chat, you've got to respond, because if it's not clean and simple, if your registration process isn't like as dumbed down as simple and easy as possible, you're going to lose them.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I would actually tell you, don't do it online if you're not ready to handle it, because
Yeah.
you will do yourself more harm than good. Um,
Yeah,
it, and
we've
it's
all been
hard.
there. Yeah, we've all been there. I mean, I can share from
Yeah.
personal experience when I've reached out to businesses or companies that I genuinely wanted to work with. I wanted to give my business, and then the response was either non-existent or so slow, it made me lose faith that that was like the right choice. And so I would just move on to their competitors. I would just move on to the next one. So I think,
Oh, this sounds terrible, but just this morning I went
uh-huh,
online. I got an email that this cute blouse from my favorite store was on sale. But
uh-huh,
sometimes I know that sizes kind of vary and don't work. So I got the contact me. I went and I called customer service, and the person who answered the phone knew nothing about the product. They said, I'm just telemarketing here and I don't know anything about the product.
huh,
And I was like,
what
I
a missed
hate you.
opportunity.
It's like, I'm not, you suck. And I'm
Yeah,
never buying, you're not getting my money. I don't care if it's
yeah.
on sale,
Yes,
because it's a,
because that's it. If I'm going to give you money, make it easy for me, right? Make the path simple for me, right? Yeah, that's
make it simple. And I will tell you, we really train our people, and you have to take care of them.
hmm.
Like, even if it says it's a final sale, even if it says, there's no money back guarantee, even if you prepay and you're not allowed to cancel any of your personal training certification schedules, because, we want you committed and you already paid for four and you selected was 4 Wednesdays in a row, and you ended up going out of town, you sprained your ankle, or work just got away from you. You gotta make accommodations nowadays. You've got to say to those people, I get it. I'm giving you, we'll extend you for another month because
Hmm.
we want to take care of you. And maybe they extend it again after that and after that. Then, it, your second
It's got
time
to be a
doing it,
boundary
I'll put up
somewhere.
with it.
Yeah.
Your third time,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what we found, Sarah, is that there's got to be a boundary somewhere, right? Is that life happens. We want to meet people where they're at and provide great service and even exceed their expectations for how generous we can be. And there's a limit. So I think I'm so glad you added that caveat at the end. It's like, okay, well, after three times, I'm not really doing you a favor anymore. You're just kind of taking advantage of my kindness. And so let's have a boundary somewhere. That's so great. Um,
And the way you phrase it to them is, it's my job for you to see results.
yeah.
That's my job. That's what you've hired us for. Whether your results are, I don't care about, your body fat. I don't think you're going to go and play, a soccer game, with Ted Lasso. I don't care what your athletic goals are, or your maybe it's just your emotional goals of you need to feel better, build your immunity. This is your goal, but we're going to help you get there. And if I don't keep you accountable, I'm not doing my job. So there's a different way to phrase it with people to keep them committed.
Yeah, well said, my friend. That's fantastic. Let's switch gears. I know I want to get to two more topics if we have time, and the next one I wanted to talk about, I think, is another common one that a lot of our clients want help with on a regular basis, which is managing a team. A lot of people get into
Yeah.
this industry because they love fitness. They're a personal trainer for years, and then when they grow a business, now they're suddenly managing people, and sometimes managing lots of people who also got into the business because they want autonomy and freedom. So you just talk a little bit. I mean, this is a huge topic, but in a few minutes, can you just share a few tips about some of your best lessons learned about how to really be a great manager and create a culture that's kind of inclusive and get shit done? So the big ask,
Well,
but what's the
oh
top of
my
your head for
God.
great management practices?
This is interesting, and I actually just wrote an article on this, which I thought was kind of fun. Um, I don't have an org chart. Like
Hmm.
we, SCW distributed Les Mills for 10 years. And I think, Michael, we were chatting just, before the camera came on. I wanted, I always talk about women in business, but I was the only female agent worldwide out of 50 agencies. Was it 48 or 50 agencies when we started?
Hmm.
And that creates its own challenge. And being a woman, I tend to run my org chart not as a hierarchy, like I'm the CEO, I'm here, and then I've got my creative director, and I've got our sponsorship director, and I've got our, human resources director. For us, it's like, I want to say it's like a flower or it's like an onion. It kind of opens up. So I feel like we run it more like a team, and everybody talks about that, but to really do it is really kind of hard to do it. And I always say I don't really care if my staff likes me. Like, I am not Michael Scott, you know? I don't care if my staff likes me or loves me, but they have to respect me. And so I don't like to react to things. If something is just pissing me off, like you get these people, like, excuse me, you feel like you work for them, like when they're working. Like, oh, I want to be a flexible owner, and you can take your dog for a walk whenever you want because you're virtual and you're leading virtual classes for me. And do you this, in the spring you're going to teach this session, and in the summer you're going to be doing this personal training. No, you really work for me, and we have to set a schedule that's appropriate. And so sometimes I kind of want to slap people, right? Not like
Yes,
so
of
the
course.
bruises show, but just a little bit to get, And we want to, in dealing with our staff, we have to set boundaries, and and setting those boundaries and requiring people to be on time, to be professional, to dress professionally, react professionally, respond professionally. I understand maybe excuse me, maybe the microphone didn't work today. Maybe your personal training client didn't show up, but you don't send them a nasty text. You
Hmm.
know, trying to make sure that you set your boundaries and you set your rules. So, one of my strongest recommendations is have an employee manual. All right. So, you've got something, even if it's just a broad stroke of how to respond and react. Make sure you have a timesheet for when people are going to be working. Make sure you have a time off request sheet so you know when they're going to ask for time off. I have an employee that worked for me that still works for me. Oh my God, she's worked for me 15 years.
Wow.
And she knows me. She knows that she's my bookkeeper, Vida. Love her. I'll do anything for her. She'll do anything for us. Once she just shot me a text and says, I'm taking off tomorrow. I have to take my daughter to the pediatrician. And she knows I'm going to say yes. But don't send me a text like that.
Yeah.
And I texted her back. I took a deep breath and I said, Vida, you know I'm going to say yes, but please be respectful and at least phrase it like a question. And she came back to me. She goes, oh, I get it. I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. But instead of me like slapping her and saying no or saying you didn't da da da, I tried to communicate. So I think I think as an owner and a CEO and a director and the managers that are on this call, herding cats is very hard. The
Hmm.
group fitness people, the personal trainers, hence the word personal, they want to do everything on their own. And we hear over and over again, be flexible, to keep these people. There's the great resignation. We have to be, bend over backwards. You have to have bend over backwards, but it's over a line.
Yeah.
It's over a certain fence that you build,
Sure.
that you will open the gate whenever they need it, but you got to give them parameters. And again, I repeat it, have that employee manual. Make sure you have a timesheet so you know when they're working, and make sure you have a time off request sheet. And more than anything, please have a weekly staff meeting.
Hmm. Yeah. I think that's great, Sarah. I think that, I love that you started with the idea that you don't have to manage hierarchically, right? I mean, you can be a more collaborative boss. And that doesn't mean that you can't have boundaries, right? You have to have boundaries and rules and set clear expectations. And I love that you listed all the things you listed are ways we set expectations, right? Employee handbook, timesheets, request off processes, staff meetings are meetings where we basically on an ongoing basis set and reset and hold people accountable to expectations. So I think that's a great roadmap for just kind of management one-on-one, which is be collaborative and have expectations you hold people accountable to. So I think
And
it's, yeah,
one thing, sorry about
yeah, that's okay.
one thing that's very important is we run our staff meetings via Zoom so everybody's on it.
Sure.
We don't have to have them show up all in a room and cough on each other like I'm coughing it. But they have to turn their cameras on.
Hmm.
They have to, and everybody's like, oh my God, I'm still wearing my bathrobe. No, you got to get dressed up. You got to figure out Zoom. I want to see, your head. I want to see, the upper body thing. You got to put your cell phone away, and I will call them out on a meeting if they're doing their text messages. Just just give me 30 minutes. Make your staff meetings no longer than 30 minutes and review by the numbers how many personal training clients you have, how many people have been in your classes, what's the open rate, how many collections do you still have out there. Always manage by the numbers. And I always tell people, I don't want to know what you think, I want to know what you know. And they're like, what the hell does that mean? Okay. At least give me some number that's a foundation. Well, last year at the same time, I had this many clients, but then over the pandemic, it really dwindled down to this. And now I'm back up to this. So it may not match my 2019 numbers, or it may not match even my 2021 numbers, but we've got, we've got monkeypox going around, so this is why it's a little bit less,
Sure.
or this is why I'm doing much better. But if you've got some type of algorithm, some type of number you can base it on, that tells me that you're basing it on something you know.
Yeah, I think
Like,
that's so smart, right? Because I think it's a part of setting those boundaries and expectations is you can be more clear about what you want if it's something you can measure, right? So having some measurables and evidence that drives people's behavior, I think that makes a ton of sense, Sarah. I think that's great.
and And I set, when I do my staff meetings, I have an Excel chart of topics that we want to talk about.
Hmm.
And then I always try to leave myself some time of what's going on, what do you think? And I don't like to run it like a dictator. That's why I don't like that hierarchy Excel chart, up and down. I need my front desk staff. I need my customer service people that are answering emails to tell me what's wrong. Why are people asking all these questions about our online certification exams? We had that as a question. Oh, it was a couple months ago, and we run 41 different online certifications for personal trainers, group fitness instructors. We even have a couple for owners and managers, like on social media, and on growing your personal training business. So we'll have
Sure.
these like 4 hour, 8 hour trainings, but everything's online. And we were getting a lot of questions of what was going on with the exams. I can't find my exam link. And we realized the exam link was there, but it wasn't being surfaced, which means
Mm,
it was there, but they couldn't see it. So we
yeah,
just increased the font size, made it red,
there it
and
is.
they found it and it stopped the question. So if your business, if you're getting a lot of, when do you have yoga classes? When is this? Do you have private yoga sessions? We've got to realize the number one place people click is our schedule. It's our schedule. All right. So you should be having pop ups on your schedule that says, join my email list. Can I answer questions on my chat bot? So you collect who's ever visiting you, and then you can go back and connect with them.
Yep.
Um, and these are so important. And then you've got to also stay in touch with that person answering your chat box, answering your emails for help, answering your customer service, and find out, okay, what happened this week? Where did you get your most questions? And then you can fix it. That's the goal.
That's well said, Sarah. I think it's another great lens for the value of team meetings, right? Because it's not just about you sitting on a throne and dictating what everyone should do the week, right? It's a conversation about bring me evidence that tells me what you're doing is working or what helps me understand what's not working, and surface issues so we can all collectively acknowledge them and solve them as quickly as possible. So I think that's really well said. Let's switch topics. I know we only have a few more minutes, and I really want to talk even just briefly about women in fitness, right? I mean, you've been such a strong female leader in this industry for so many years. And I think there's so much more work to be done as an industry to make space for females in leadership roles, even just to make gym cultures more friendly to females. I know a lot of group fitness tends to be a little female heavy, but that's the exception in this industry. A lot of other places are not always as welcoming to females. So I just want to talk a little bit about what have you been seeing in terms of the role of females in the industry over the last few years, and what do you hope to see in terms of change in the coming years?
Well, it was interesting. I feel like more and more women are entering um, their leadership roles and
Mm,
embracing it. I think
yeah,
because of inclusion and diversity has gotten so prominent over the pandemic. And I got to tell you, there's a lot of good things that happened through this pandemic. We accelerated our technology, we became more inclusive, more diverse. I mean, there's some horrible things that have happened with violence, etc., but it's making people more aware, at least of the importance of diversity and inclusion. But I did read a very disheartening McKinsey report that
hmm,
said women still are not getting these leadership roles. We're still underpaid. So I'm going
yes,
to tell you, ask for it.
hmm,
Ask for leadership and then ask for more money. You've got to do it. If you don't ask for it, I'm sorry, in this economy, you ain't going to get it. Um, One of the little tricks also
can I ask
that,
that? I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to also say for our male listeners, right? I think it's important for men to recognize that there's a ton of research that shows that females are less likely to ask for a promotion, less likely to ask for a raise. So if you're a manager or leader out there that has the power to offer that and invite a conversation of females who you see have potential for leadership, then make it easier on them. Just know statistically, the women that you manage may not be likely to ask as the men that you manage. And so I think we as as male leaders can make more space there and make that a invite that conversation if it's not coming on their behalf. Sorry to interrupt. I
And
just want to say that men, you're not off the hook here.
Sorry to interrupt your podcast, but want to make sure you knew about another free resource from your friends at Business for Unicorns. If you're looking for even more actionable tips to build the gym of your dreams, head to markfisheryoutube.com. I post videos twice per week and I give you the inside scoop on how to get the best results with your training gym, including keeping you up to date with exactly what's working now with Mark Fisher Fitness and the other super achievers in the Unicorn Society. I am putting my whole heart and soul into this channel, so if you smash that subscribe button, it would mean so much. Now back to the show.
well, there's a wonderful study that Harvard did, and it's actually from 2019. So it's a couple years old, but considering that nobody was doing any studies basically during the pandemic, it's very, very relevant. Interestingly enough, men will apply for a job if they have 60%
Mm-hmm.
if they meet 60% of the job requirements.
Yep.
But women will only apply for a job if they feel like they meet 100% of the requirements.
Yeah.
So men understand that they can grow into a job, that they have a skill set that can mesh or match perfectly with the position requirements. And women don't see that. Maybe it's a little bit of insecurity from childhood or the way they're raised. I'm not quite sure, but I still see this. And sometimes I'll say, I have to say to my female employees, you've got this. You can do this.
Mm-hmm.
You're smart. We used to have an operations director that was male, and I think at times he would enable some of the female employees to not take a chance. And what I mean by that is he would jump and say, "Oh, I'm happy to help you." He'd love to be the guy with the cape, the
Mm-hmm.
helper. And I love that. I love that personality. But if you want to see people grow and you're the owner and the manager and you think you see this great, personal training director who answers their emails on time, is always on their text messages, is able to use WhatsApp if they're working with some product purchase that's international. If they're on it and you say, I get it. You're not the top personal trainer out there. So and so is making more money than you are, but you show greater capability of management. You've got this. I see you have this potential. Let's give it a try. If you don't feel you're capable, let's try it for just a month. I won't raise your salary, but after a month, if you're showing this propensity, this ability, this desire, let's give you that raise and and I'll set you free and give you this job. So I love that study from Harvard, and I love that approach for women in business because you're absolutely right, Michael. We have to make sure these people feel worthy. Because
Yeah.
if they're raised in an environment where I'm always the group fitness instructor, I'm always, whatever, I'm not the best instructor. Do not hire your best trainer as your personal training director. Hire your best director as your director. Don't never, oh my God, never hire your best group fitness instructor because their ego is probably enormous. Hire your best manager as
Yeah.
the manager.
I
And
think
it's
that's a
important
great
to do
tip.
that.
Yeah, it's a great tip. I mean, just because someone's good at a job doesn't mean they're good at managing people who do that job. Right. And so I think, yeah, you have to pick people who have the propensity for management and leadership. And sometimes, the research shows women might just need a little extra love, a little encouragement, a little nudge to try and go out on a limb.
Yes.
Yeah.
And another thing I see is that like I went to a training. Oh my God, I love this person. I'm not going to use her name. I don't want to do
Hmm.
anything negative. But she's a woman in business, and she works primarily in the education field.
Hmm.
Where I think if you're working in an education field, or I'm a licensed attorney. I'm a lawyer, and I don't practice law. I've never practiced. Actually, I don't even think I'm licensed anymore because I didn't take my CLE, my continuing legal education, like over the pandemic. So I'm probably not even licensed. But I did practice law, and I've got do my contracts and blah blah blah. But one of the things that I find about educators and lawyers, they're a little bit more respectful of women in the industry. I find that in fitness, we get a lot of ex jocks that are used to locker room
Hmm.
banter and ability to get along that way. So women sometimes feel out of place. So this friend of mine who's in the education field, she says, stand with your hands apart and your legs apart and enter the conversation. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if I ever did that with Les Mills, being the female agent, and Les Mills is a very non-sexist organization, very inclusive. But if I ever entered a room like that, um, I'm also on a podcast with three amazing men. Brent Darden was, I mean, we're on a talk show. Brent Darden, former CEO of URSA during the pandemic, most difficult time. He was amazing. Blair McCaney, Bill McBride, and I'm on this talk show with them. If I walked in with my hands on my hips and with my feet apart and blah blah blah, I don't know if I would have been accepted. So I enter a little bit, mm, I don't know, respectfully, and I put myself in uncomfortable positions as a female, which means I put myself into conversations where they kind of look at me like, what are you doing in here? We don't know you as well.
Mm.
But if you don't try, they're never going to get to know you.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
would enter these conversations at let's say, the URSA convention, which is the Global Organization for Health Clubs. I would enter these conversations and they would kind of look at me, and once in a while I would, you know, voice my opinion or suggest an article or different way to interpret a
mhm.
situation. And you get to know people. So you've got to be willing, as anybody, and I'm not just talking women, I'm not, inclusion, diversity, blah, 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 entering a difficult conversation if that's where you want to end up.
Yeah. Well, I think
Be aspirational.
Yeah, I think it's well said, Sarah. I think that the crazy part about that scenario is the expectation that to fit into a group of men in a conversation or in a boardroom, that you would need to change something about yourself to make that easier for them. That's the most absurd idea that still exists right now, is that some reason women have to change to be better accepted or better integrated into male spaces. And it's such BS, right? So I think your point here is like, be yourself and be confident. It's going to be uncomfortable maybe for a minute, perhaps, but you don't need to be anything besides who you are. You don't need to go in being puffed up or trying to quote, act like a dude, right? Like you don't need to be anything but who you are. Go into space with confidence and share what you know. So I think that's a great message. And frankly, I think that's a great message to end the podcast on. So thank you so much for this. I feel like we could talk for another few hours, but I want to be respectful of your time. So thank you. Thanks for the great tips about marketing, the wonderful tips about management. I think this is a great conversation about women. And I'd love to have you back sometime, just kind of continue the conversation and dig a little deeper if we can. So, as we wrap things up, any final words for our listeners, and where can they find you if they want to learn more about you and your work?
If you want to find more out about me, it's sarakooperman.com.
Great.
And it's without an H, so it's Sara, and it's with a K like kite, Kooperman. And that's like my personal website. I like it. And there's a lot of cool articles and webinars and stuff like that in there. And
Amazing.
then at scwfit.com. And you can find out about our business stuff that we offer and get on our we do a monthly newsletter. And Michael, I'd love to include an article from you and Mark
Great.
on your unicorn. I love that name. Love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, of
Yeah, you can
course.
see our logo up there. It's
I
like we're
see.
very,
You got a lot of color,
committed
a lot of rainbows. Yeah,
to change. I know. I love it.
that's
So,
awesome.
please stay in touch with us as well. And thank you so much for having me. It's a real honor.
It was a pleasure, Sarah. Thanks so much.
Hi again. I want to remind you about an awesome free resource we created for gym owners. Have you ever found yourself overwhelmed in your gym? Just not sure where to put your efforts to get the next level? Well, head to gymownerreportcard.com and you can access a totally free assessment that will help you identify exactly where to focus your efforts so you can get crystal clear on the next best steps to create the gym of your dreams. One more time, that's gymownerreportcard.com.